Good afternoon, and welcome to our annual public conversation with our senior leadership team. I think you all know that this is the counterpart to the annual State of the University address, and this is our fourth edition of this event. And as before, the goal of today's event is really to have a free-flowing conversation and a dialogue between myself and the Vice Chancellors. And of course, this event looks a bit different today than it has in the past because we are all tuned in via Zoom. And as everyone knows, we have been absolutely committed to continuing our university's business as much as possible, as normal as possible during the pandemic. And so while this may not be our normal format, we still want to offer our perspective on our university during these unprecedented times. So joining me today on the call are the five vice chancellors and our moderator. And to make sure that everyone that's participating in this event today knows who's speaking, I'm going to ask each of them to briefly identify themselves, starting now with Provost Cangelares.
Good afternoon. Andreas Cangelares, Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs.
Good afternoon. I am Danita Brown-Young, and I'm the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs.
Hello, this is Susan Martinez. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation.
Hello, my name is Sean Garrett. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Barry Benson, Vice Chancellor for Advancement.
Robin Kaler, Associate Chancellor for Public Affairs.
So again, thank you all for joining me today, and thank you for continuing to exercise safe social distance. Thank you to everyone that's watching who has submitted questions beforehand. And just a point of information, we received about 200 questions. And while we certainly aren't able to get to all of them, we're going to get through as many of them by topic area as we possibly can. So as we intended, as we interact with one another this afternoon or today, I hope you will all see that we as a team bring some commonality in terms of our perspectives on these critical issues, but we also have some different perspectives and views of some of these issues as well. And we certainly hope that that comes through during the dialogue that we are having. And so you'll have a chance to hear from each of us and our perspective as we respond to the questions that you've raised. So with that in mind, I will turn the meeting over to Robin Kaler, who's going to moderate the rest of the conversation. And she'll start with a couple of general questions that are related to COVID-19 pandemic. And then she'll start to present us with some of the specific questions that were raised in advance. Again, I certainly hope that these conversations serve to give all of us a better idea of where we stand and what we're thinking about and how we continue to advance this university in the face of the one of the most important and challenging issues we've faced in the history of this university. So with that, Robin, I'll turn the control of the meeting over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. And let's just get started immediately with you answering the first question. What is one of the most challenging aspects you've found of dealing with the impacts of COVID-19?
Well, it's very clear to me that one of the most challenging aspects of dealing with the impact of COVID-19 is the uncertainty of it all. As I said a few moments ago, this is something that I don't think as a university and as a country and as a world we've ever had to face before. So it is certainly unprecedented in terms of it is not only just a financial crisis at its core, it's a health crisis. And when you combine those two entities together, it really creates an environment where we have had to rethink almost every aspect of this university. And I'm almost certain there hasn't been a time in my history where we've had to basically transform everything that we're doing in a short time period, but still with great attention to the health and safety of our students, our faculty, and our staff. And the other issue is not knowing when this will all end. We continue to strategize about the next set of issues that we need to plan for, the next set of scenarios we need to plan for, and continuing to work our way to the point where we will return to whatever normalcy is going to mean post-COVID-19. So for me, it's just the uncertainty and the transformational impact that this has had on the entire academic enterprise.
Thank you very much. Andreas, how about from your perspective?
Robin, for me, two things stand out. One is the community is dealing with something that they never expected to have to deal with. This is a singular event for all of us. And the uncertainty that Chancellor Jones is talking about goes beyond that. Is this strange environment in which everyone is being asked to operate. And on a personal basis, I miss my community. We are part of a campus, and not being there, having the human interaction with the community, is a very personal challenge for me.
I understand completely. I feel the same way. Danita, you're used to having so many students around. How is it from your perspective?
Well, I would tell you that that is a challenge, not having the energy of students on this campus. But overall, I think supporting the health and well-being of our students and our staff and faculty during this difficult time is a major challenge. It's not easy trying to work remotely, and particularly if you have additional family needs and responsibilities like educating and raising children or taking care of a family member. It is difficult, but we want to make sure that our team members have adequate support and resources while we're navigating this uncharted territory. Also, I think the financial loss is going to be a major challenge in how we determine how do we fund these organizations and how do we deliver quality, engaging student experience for all of our students.
Great, thank you. Susan, the research enterprise, you've got to have lots of challenges.
Oh, thanks, Robin. You know, and I'm a researcher myself in the Department of Biochemistry with a lab of graduate students. I feel very keenly the directive to halt in-person research activities, although, you know, some of this goes on still off campus, like high-performance computing can continue, but the issues are very real to those people that rely on our facilities and our labs. These human implications, knowing that we're talking about people's career trajectories, students, junior faculty, and our senior faculty that sometimes have years of carefully collected data. There's also significant regulatory and compliance challenges associated with our response to the pandemic. I'm fortunate to have a very good team, a very seasoned team to help with that. We know that people want information, and my team and I have been working diligently to understand the implications of COVID-19 on our sponsored research portfolio. Understanding the changing and rapidly evolving federal guidance is a priority, and we know the stakes are high. It requires significant attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Sean, how about from your perspective? We hear a lot about the uneven way that something like this is affecting people.
I think that's been a big part of it. From our perspective, it's been about transitional programming that would have been face-to-face or technology-based. Rather, it would have been face-to-face, so either remote or technology-based, when many of our constituencies and stakeholders are at varied levels in terms of their technological preparedness. How do we, do the things that we're supposed to do when we're no longer on that even playing field, so to speak? The other thing is really trying to envision the myriad ways that this adversely affects students who are graduating in spring or folks who would be coming onto campus in fall. If you think about it, these are big moments in our lives, particularly in the lives of young people. These are times that denote significant major milestones, and we're doing it in very different ways. How do we make sure that we still convey and deliver that fantastic world-class educational lifelong experience.
Great, thank you so much, Sean. And Barry, obviously we really count on the support that our donors and friends give us to be able to continue our missions. How's it in your area?
Well, thanks, Robin. And as you know, our Illini family includes over 500,000 alumni and donors living more than 100 countries and 6 continents around the world, many of whom are located in areas that have been significantly impacted by the effects of this virus. I think we've all seen some of the emails that have crossed our desks in the last few weeks. Some of these messages are from individuals we have yet to meet personally, but many are also from friends that the university has known for quite some time and we know very, very well. And so as we learn and as our Illini family share more and more of these stories, as they continue to endure hardships, we too are grieving along with them. And that makes not only dealing with our own personal challenges difficult, but knowing firsthand that many in our extended family are also struggling as well provides an exponential challenge for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barry, I'm going to ask you the next question first. So in addition to having challenges, we've also seen a lot of really good things that people have done and things that really make us proud to be part of the University of Illinois family. Can you tell us something that makes you proud right now?
Yeah, absolutely. As I alluded to, our alumni are across the globe are responding to these challenges brought by COVID-19 in really unprecedented ways. And when I say unprecedented, that doesn't seem to give that term the gravity it deserves at a time like this. But really, we're seeing instances from an alumni who's currently serving as the Secretary of Illinois' Department of Human Resources and chairs the new Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund, to an Illinois parent located overseas who not only gave $100,000 towards an international student emergency fund, but also 9,000 surgical masks to the College of Vet Med, with further distribution to our community partners at Carl and elsewhere. These stories are plentiful and should make all of us proud to be a part of such a great university.
Great, absolutely. Sean, how about you?
For me, it's the way the university has come together in trying to make everyone whole throughout this experience in terms of logistics, education, scholarship, education experience. If you think about the varied experiences here, local, national, international, and study abroad students, it's quite the challenge, but I believe the university's done a very good job in terms of thinking about the challenges that have disrupted people's lives. So while this is entirely unprecedented, it's been somewhat reassuring how holistically we've thought about these things.
Absolutely. Susan, you've had some really exciting things in your area.
Oh, Robin, absolutely. I have been just in awe of the incredible ingenuity and generosity of our research community. And not only of this, but their partnership. On so many levels. It's internal, it's with the county, it's with our local hospitals, it's with the state, and really we're seeing a national impact from our community. We've seen ingenuity that spans helping make PPE, personal protection equipment, which no one in our community probably knew what that meant until it hit the news, and we're a big part of it. We're seeing testing develop, we're seeing therapeutic initiatives that we're well positioned for, just really, really exciting. And it really reflects the breadth of our campus. We hear a lot about the biologists, the biochemists, the chemists, the engineers, but also we have the social workers, the microbiologists, the computer scientists, psychologists, artists, and historians, all playing just a really significant role that goes deep into our expertise at Illinois. So it's obvious that this is going to continue in the next few weeks, the months and years. And, you know, it is just really inspiring to me.
Absolutely agree. And Danita, our students have been pretty impressive too, haven't they?
Absolutely. And I would just say what I'm proud of is the way that our team and our students, especially our essential workers, have come together to support one another, to offer a level of service and support that is unprecedented. And we are in uncharted territory, and yet our students, our team members have really stepped up, provided leadership, been nimble, and remained focused on the overall goal. And our team members have remained student-centered, and I really do thank them for that. And I especially want to thank our team members who are deemed essential workers, because they are on the front lines every day trying to keep us safe and to maintain and keep our campus operational. So I thank them for all that they have done and all that they do.
Absolutely. Second your motion. Andreas, how about you?
Where can I start? I'm thinking about it. What is 3 weeks ago, we told everybody, go home and keep doing all the things that you have been for the university. And the way the community came together and saw that through as not just a responsibility, but as what needed to be done to look after one another's well-being, to me is amazing. Whether it is looking after the well-being and the advancement of our junior colleagues, whether it is looking after the continuity of the studies of our students, how do we go about assessing them in the best possible way, supporting them in the absence of the technology that is so readily available on campus to continue learning online, dealing with all the difficulties they encounter when they're at home, environment that is not the environment they were signing up to be part when they were coming to the university. And yet everyone, our staff, our faculty, our teachers, our technology service support people, everybody coming together and saying, we will do our best to continue doing the things that the community needs. I have been impressed with how this university stood up and responded to this amazing challenge.
Absolutely. Chancellor, I'm guessing you're going to say all of the above, and anything else you need to add?
Absolutely, all of the above, but let me just frame my statements with a kind of a variation of an old axiom. And I think the measure of the university is not just how it responds in a time of growth and prosperity, but the true measure is how we respond during the period of crisis. And we're certainly in a great crisis now. And I can tell you, I have been absolutely amazed at the way that this university so rapidly came together, as Andreas has said, to basically transform a educational delivery and an operation of the university in very short measure. They didn't argue or complain. They rolled up their sleeves and basically went about doing the work that was absolutely necessary to sustain the core mission of the university. And that is very, very gratifying. And the way that our faculty, our staff, and our students and frontline workers have really responded is gratifying. And I'm very, very pleased that as an institution, we've been able to work collectively with the governance structure and with all the employee groups, I think, to show great respect for the role that they play in this community. And we are a better place because of it. To summarize, we have really demonstrated during this crisis the core value proposition of a land-grant university for the 21st century. We remain committed to access and affordability, to keeping people employed to the best of our ability, and to respond with their health and safety as our core consideration. So that makes me very proud and very happy to be part of such an institution.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, everyone, for that. Now we're going to move on to the questions that the people who submitted questions for us in advance gave. And as the Chancellor said, we had about 200 of those. They covered about a dozen topics. So we're going to ask at least those dozen, and then we'll see if we can get into some more. I'm going to ask each question to one or more of you, but anybody who would like to can join in. And as we all know now with Zoom meetings, we just need you to use the little raise your hand function if you'd like to add in. For this one, it's going to go first to the Chancellor. Chancellor, can you say, why are student insurance fees increasing so drastically next year, and why are we doing that in a pandemic?
Well, first of all, Robin, the fact that this is occurring during the pandemic is, just kind of happenstance. We've been looking at the issue of insurance fees and premiums as it relates to our healthcare program. We look at it each and every year. And I think most people in our community know that this is something that was vetted and discussed with the system level as well as the Board of Trustees several months ago. So it is something that is driven by a number of different variables, including the rising cost of healthcare that is dictated by the healthcare provider that we have a contract with. And the biggest driver for this is the fact that the premiums that are being paid by our students as a part of the healthcare program does not cover the cost that is being incurred by the healthcare provider. So it's in part as an economic issue. And we know that our students are heavy users of healthcare, and I'm going to ask, perhaps I'll leave that to Danita Brown-Young to respond, but just want to provide the context for which this is occurring. This is something that we look at each and every year. It is unfortunate that it comes on top of this pandemic crisis, and so we are obligated to the premium at the moment because it's a contractual obligation. But Danita and I met this morning to have a conversation about how we will be looking at this issue going forward.
Great, thank you. Danita, would you like to go next?
Yes, I would just like to add that we really have an inclusive process where we involve students in reviewing our student health insurance every year, as well as other faculty and staff. And it was just a coincidence of the timing of this pandemic and the increase of the rates for next year. But we continue to review our student health insurance every year to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students.
Great, thank you. Andres, did you have anything you'd like to add on this one?
Yes, I wanted to also say that it is unfortunate anytime we see an increase in fees, as the Chancellor said, prompted by reasons that sometimes are not necessarily under our control, and the timing of that as well. But I want to also point out that if you look at our insurance rates and compare them to, for example, our peers in the Big Ten, right now our current level of insurance rate is the fourth lowest in the Big Ten, and even in the absence of any increases by the other universities, which of course we know is going to be happening, even in the absence of that, the new insurance rates we're going to have in place that will put us right in the middle of the pack. Will be probably ranked 8th in the Big Ten as we raise our insurance rates. And I want to emphasize this because we are very mindful of this cost, and we are very attentive to the fact that that creates difficulty for our students. And we are, as Danita pointed out, we're working very carefully to figure out how to mitigate impacts like this in the future.
Great, thank you. And we'll stay on the financial topic for a little bit. Why or why not are we going to give students any kind of a tuition refund? Robert, would you like to take that first?
Well, I guess the first part of that response is that, tuition is basically charged to cover the cost of the education that we provide our students. And even though we have now switched that to remote platform, we feel very strongly about, for the most part, the quality of the educational experience that we are still providing students, even though the delivery mechanism has changed substantially because of COVID-19. And so that's one of the reasons. We still have faculty to pay, we have staff to pay, we have the cost of educational delivery to cover. And so that is the fundamental principle of why I don't think there's any institution that I'm aware of that is refunding tuition. And it will be antithetical to what I've said earlier about our primary goal is to maintain the educational continuity and operational excellence of this university while still delivering a world-class education, even though it may not be in a traditional format of face-to-face.
Great, thank you. Andreas, would you like to add anything there?
Yes, I would like to point out that the number of courses that could not be delivered without face-to-face instruction is actually small. And I'm most thankful to all their extra effort and creativity that went into finding out how to make as many of their courses available to be taught remotely as possible. And even for those cases where we could not do that, what the units have tried to do very hard and very diligently is to find other options for the students who were enrolled in those students in those courses.
Great, thank you. So moving on from tuition, let's go to fees. Danita, can you talk a little bit about what fees are being refunded and why?
Yes, Robin. In fact, a mass mail has already been sent to students, and a portion of their service fee has been refunded. Service fee and their transportation fee have been refunded, and students should start to see some of those credits in their account.
Great, thank you. And also housing and dining, is that correct?
Housing and dining has also already been refunded back to students.
Great, thank you. Robert, can you talk a little bit about what we're doing to ensure that essential workers are safe, those who have to be on campus?
Yes. Well, I think what we're doing, and again, Danita and I were having a conversation about that today. I think very early, we played a very important role in helping to define what constitutes essential employees as it relates to universities and higher education across the state. And very pleased that we played that role in helping to shape the understanding of what is essential employees as it relates to universities. And so we were very, very cognizant as we worked to establish that criteria that we were providing the opportunity for folks to maintain safe distances. This is true across the entire enterprise, even as it relates to our construction projects. We work very closely with the contractors to really put it back on them to make sure that if they couldn't maintain a construction operation that acknowledges and adheres to the guidelines of safe distancing, then those projects would have to be stopped. In fact, our own projects have been slowed down or postponed because of the inability to do that. And I think as it relates to the workers that are responsible, who are essential employees that have to come in to keep our physical plant operating, we've also now I understand have protective equipment available for those folks and are encouraging them to use them. And these folks are playing a major role in keeping our universities safe through the facility workers that come in and clean and sanitize our facilities. But we also try to make sure that they are maintaining the same standards about social distancing that we expect from other members of the university, and that we're giving them the resources. We're staggering shifts to make sure that people have the opportunity to be in the workplace, but also have some opportunity to be sequestered at home as well. So those are some of the things that we're doing, and we'll continue to do more as we think about how do we prepare these critical employees once we start to think about at what point we start to transition back to face-to-face operation.
Yeah, those are good points. You know, we hear a lot about when we have to cancel classes because of snow or something. People always say the university is closed, and we know the university cannot close. And two areas where it cannot close would be in research and student affairs, because obviously we still have research projects going and we still have students we need to take care of. So Susan, can you start us off and talk a little bit about essential workers and your philosophy in VCR?
Absolutely, and just to comment on closure, you can't really close our amazing minds of our scholars on campus. It continues whether they're on campus or off campus. But secondly, I'd like to say safety is really a cornerstone of our operations in the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation. Not only do we do annual training, but day in and day out, we practice this. Our graduate students, our undergraduates, our staff, our research personnel, our PI know what it takes to be safe in their research environment. Of course, this is a fluid situation. Social distancing is a new concept for many, and our campus safety professionals who are very seasoned are up to date on this and providing advice. I really want to take this opportunity to thank our essential workers and make sure they hear one thing loud and clear. Thank you, whether you're an animal care staffer, you're a building service worker, or a researcher who's developing new ways to combat this pandemic. I believe you know what it takes to stay safe in your specific roles. Your supervisors certainly know. And if there's ways that we can bridge that gap, we can. One just small note is that we have personal protective equipment throughout campus. We have an inventory of that. We've been able to redistribute it to those essential workers on campus. So thank you again to those.
Great, thank you, Susan. Danita, how about from the student affairs perspective?
I echoed what the Chancellor and Susan have already said, but we have definitely followed the CDC guidelines and many times gone above and beyond those guidelines to ensure our team members have the adequate personal protective equipment, cleaning products. We're paying attention, extra attention to those high traffic areas to keep them clean, and just really going above and beyond to make sure that we have a safe environment for our students who remain here on campus and our team members.
Great, thank you. And Danita, we've had a lot of questions about how we're providing mental health services to students, faculty, and staff. And why don't you start with students, and then we'll move on to others for the other parts.
Yeah. So for our students, we are conducting phone consultations, and we have launched what's called Zoom Health, and that provides some telecounseling services to our eligible students. And we are still providing numerous outreach and prevention resources to our students virtually. And we are providing physical health and videos through our campus recreation, sending out tips for students about mental health and their own health and well-being, and just doing some check-ins. I know a lot of our departments are checking in on students that they directly advise or come in contact with, so that's also helpful. And then our Student Assistance Center in the Office of the Dean of Students, they really serve as a virtual hub for students who may not know where to turn for assistance or help, and help them identify some resources that may be available to them, and maybe even be available in their local area. So we have not stopped our outreach to our students to make sure that they are receiving the support that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I know on our COVID-19 inbox, many of the questions we were able to send right to the Student Assistance Center, and they connected with people immediately. So thank you for that. That's great. And Robert, how about for faculty and staff? Can you talk a little about that?
Well, as was said, the physical, emotional health and well-being of our faculty and our staff are critically important, as well as our students. And we have really leveraged the support that's available through our faculty and staff assistance program to kind of beef up that effort, working with Illinois Human Resources to make sure that our faculty and our staff are very much aware of the resources that we have available. Because sometimes I think, in the normal course of doing business, people don't really think about these assets and whether or not they're available on campus. And so we've tried to be more effective in communicating what resources are available, and to make sure that our faculty and staff know that these things are there and that they should utilize them. And just general messaging about, how do they keep kind of mind, body, and soul together as we work in this new paradigm of working remotely. And I try to practice what I preach. I try to use my noon hour, my lunch hour now as a way to get in a 45-minute bicycle ride, or go for a walk with my wife, or doing something physical, because I can tell you, sitting here 8-10 hours of Zoom meetings gets to be not very healthy in many ways, and so emotionally and physically. And so we just try to model the behavior that we want all of our faculty and staff to consider. Reach out and utilize these assets, folks. And if you think that we're not providing adequate resources in any aspect of these mental health issues, then please let any of us know, and we'll do the best we can to add additional resources.
Great, thank you. And in that area of resources, we know that our most vulnerable students, as Sean mentioned earlier, are disproportionately affected. Let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that we're supporting them, because we did get quite a few questions in that area. So Andreas, can you talk a little bit about how those students are being supported who may have been a little harder hit by this?
Absolutely, Robin. And everyone knows that COVID-19 has been affecting many families in financial ways that nobody was expecting. And we are all focused on the COVID-19 infection curve and how we flatten that, but the unemployment, the number of people who are now declaring unemployed is growing, and that's another thing that is on everyone's mind. It's definitely on our mind, and our Office of Financial Aid has a process through which students who are seeing changes in their financial status, they can go back and discuss options for receiving additional aid. So that's a number one priority by our Office of Financial Aid. They're busy at work, doubling down on their effort to connect with as many students as possible about that. Another thing we're trying to make sure is that all our students who were in a work-study program continue to be employed. This is something that is very important for them at this time. Also, students who were employed as interns on campus, there's both a compensation opportunity there, but also, as you can imagine, a learning experience. And we are trying to make sure everyone is being told on campus to make sure that those students continue with their employment, the internship throughout the year. And of course, we're planning additional ways in which we can provide extra funding, emergency funding for students. And this, of course, is something that is the priority of everyone. And the federal government is stepping up in a significant way, helping the universities to look after the emergency needs of our students.
Great, and I think we'll go to Barry in a minute on that, but Danita, let's get that whole student affairs perspective before we do that, and then we'll want to ask Sean too, if you could be ready, Sean.
Absolutely. As I've mentioned already, the Student Assistance Center helps students identify some of those resources that may be available to them, particularly, and that's inclusive of our emergency financial assistance. So the recently passed CARES Act, it also provides for some emergency grants to students. And right now, the university is working on that process to be able to provide that financial assistance to those students. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the fundraising, but I know we're going to get to Barry as well. But we do have the emergency dean fund that was established about a decade ago to help students through crises such as this. And so that will provide some financial relief for our students.
Great, thank you. And Sean, could you talk a little bit more about what your office is doing and what you're seeing?
Sure. I'd like to first restate Chancellor Jones's comment and commitment that the university is truly committed to providing the students with the excellent academic experience that they want and they expect. And our office in particular, we are charged with making sure that we can bring the voices, the concerns of vulnerable populations to the senior leadership of this university. So we're thinking about this both short-term and long-term. An example for a short-term thing is technology needs. We know for a fact that the college's Student Assistance Center and Technology Services have been working hard to ensure that students who don't have computers or have high-speed internet have the technology that they need to successfully continue their studies. You may think, well, that's not really financial. It is financial because the best thing we can do for students is to ensure that they have an extremely successful experience here at the university, that they learn as much as they can, they grow as much as they can, and then when they are delivered into society, they can transition into their professional lives. So helping them, maintain their studies can definitely do that. A more long-term thing is with our incoming students. Studies have shown that bridge programs, summer activities really help prepare students for long-term success. And again, if they can come and within 4 or 5 years graduate, again, that is less financial burden that they're taking on. So, for example, we've transitioned our Illinois Scholar Summer Program to a virtual online format. And again, this will familiarize students who are not familiar with the large residential R1 university with what the experiences that are needed to be truly successful here. But this is something, a year ago, no one would have thought of. How do we do a virtual bridge program? But this is something that, we're close to finalizing at this stage. But again, delivering long-term programmatic change to enable success in this rather strange time.
That's great, thank you. And Barry, how can you talk about how you're helping us with this?
Sure, yeah, thank you, Robin. It should go without saying, a little bit of context here, whether you're in Illinois or really anywhere throughout the country, universities aren't necessarily built to raise money in a time of crisis here. And so, as it's been suggested in numerous spaces already, the university has done a tremendous job in terms of revamping the traditional business model and really mobilizing support at a broad scale for those that need it most. And so what you're seeing now are very deliberate and intentional efforts to leverage not only federal dollars through the CARES Act, but institutional funds and then private philanthropy, and package that into programs that will essentially raise tens of millions of dollars for students who need it most in order to continue their education. And so you've seen, whether it's central programs that'll roll out in the next couple of days and months, centrally, to local efforts within colleges. And I alluded to, some of the progress that's been made in the international space. Certainly, Danita has her Dean's Emergency Fund. Robin, Public Affairs, has presented multiple opportunities for proceeds from t-shirt sales to benefit students. You're starting to see a lot of these initiatives, not only centrally, but throughout the university, coalesce around supporting students that need it most. As we move forward, you'll continue to see this as a priority in the days, in the months ahead here. And we certainly aspire to raise tens of millions of dollars in this space for those that need it most.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. We talked a little bit about this in the previous question, but Andres, can you talk a little bit more about the remote learning aspect and the technology, everything that had to happen to get us where we are, to be able to deliver these alternative methods of instruction?
Building on what has already been mentioned by Son and Anita, the important thing to recognize is that, again, sending people home and asking them to connect with us remotely and continue learning is much more easily said than done. Not everyone is ready to do that, and there was indeed need of technology, be that laptops, be that software, be that online books that students had, and even access to internet. Many of our students were not able to have reliable access to internet. And as Danita mentioned, and Son, Student Assistance Center, together with Technology Services, provided the means through which we could connect with the students could reach directly to them. Instructors who were hearing firsthand from students would engage with the Student Assistance Center and make sure that the technology needs that were being put forward were addressed as swiftly as possible. The number of requests was not large, but it was there, it was real, and the more students became aware of the opportunity to engage that and have their needs met, the more response we received to this significant commitment by the university.
Danita, do you want to add anything to that? You've kind of covered some of it, but is there anything?
The only thing that I would add is that we are also working with technology services that we have delivered HIPAA compliant platforms so that we can deliver safe, secure telehealth services like counseling. So it's been a great partnership in providing those services.
Great point. So once we get people to the point where they can take their classes, now everyone's got concerns about the grading system. So Andreas, can you talk a little bit about the decision that was made on how to grade courses and why we didn't go all pass fail, and how we think that's going to affect our students in the long term?
This was a very difficult decision, Robin, but everything started with the realization that the situation that students found themselves in was oftentimes very challenging for them to, if you wish, perform as they were expected to be able to perform. And the same applies for the instructors. Their ability to deliver the material in a way that was what was planned originally through the face-to-face engagement with the students was changing dramatically. So we were very deliberate in engaging with the entire community, of course with consultation with academic senate, to think through all of these issues and make sure that in this stress that everyone was going through, particularly our students, how do we provide them an option that allowed them to continue with their work and take the courses, credit, no credit, and we made sure to expand that option to not only their students in their majors, but in their minor, also to fulfill their education requirements, everything that will facilitate that experience for them in the best possible way. And most important, recognizing that some of us were concerned about wanting to receive a letter grade because they wanted to apply for medical schools and so on. All of those concerns were debated, again, with consultation with the academic senate, and through them, with consultation with the entire campus. And I think the decision that was made and the plan put forward is serving all students in the best possible way. I also want to say that the academic institutions that are considering students for graduate studies are fully aware of the fact that this is a singular semester in the experience of every student. And like many of them, we are also thinking carefully of how will we allow graduate students who want to apply to us, come from work at the University of Illinois, to deal with the grades they have received during the COVID-19 semester.
Great, thank you. And Sean, again, to that point of students being affected disproportionately, any thoughts to add on this topic?
I'll just second what Provost Cangelara said, and that is, we have to think about it this way. We have a wide variety of students. We're all in very different places, different majors, what they will be doing next semester, what these grades are for. And they're all going through something that's rather traumatic, right? Either personally or sociostructurally. It's a very difficult time. So how do we come up with a policy that accommodates everyone? Well, I think this policy came very close to perfect in the sense that it gives students a choice for them to do what is best for them. You have, as the provost said, you have folks who are applying to graduate school where a particular grade may matter. You have folks who are, keen on getting their minor. And I think the policy is sufficiently flexible and sufficiently general to treat everyone in a rather equitable manner, while still maintaining academic rigor.
Thank you very much. And Susan, obviously COVID-19 has affected the research mission quite a bit in the short term. How do you see that going forward?
Well, Robin, I think there's a lot of silver linings in this unprecedented time where the world seemingly slows down. We get that opportunity to do something we always want as scholars, and that's the time to think, to go back, analyze data, talk with our colleagues, work with our students, have group meetings. I mean, it's such an important time. And I think when the gates get open back to those facilities, we will hit the ground running in really powerful ways because we've had that opportunity to think. So I really believe that that's going to be pivotal and our continuing impact. The second thing is our researchers have stepped up really in real time for those who are on the front lines doing essential research to go at record time to address issues with the pandemic. And out of this with those thinkers, we'll do what we've always done. The interdisciplinary research, bringing together different disciplines is absolutely in our DNA. And that's going on whether they're on campus or not. And the last thing I want to say is that we continue to really work with our federal agencies, my peers around the nation, to work on thinking about how to ramp up. So when we come out of those gates, we will do it in a really effective and safe way.
That's great, thank you. Chancellor Jones, this is a question we might have gotten more than any other question. Are you gonna have an in-person commencement for 2020 students?
Well, I'm sure that that's a frequently asked question, and you can understand why, because I think it's probably true to say that the capstone experience for years of K through 12 education and then higher education specifically is the opportunity to participate in commencement. And so to answer to the question is, we are planning for a virtual commencement on May 16th, I think is the date that we've identified that. So look at it in a more positive context. This particular group of students that'll be graduating in May will have the opportunity to have a virtual commencement in May 16th. But I assure you, at the time when it's convenient and appropriate to bring people back to campus, we do plan to have a more traditional face-to-face commencement, because we just think that that's critically important as a capstone experience for graduating from this university. And we do not want this class to be the first one in the recent history or the last 100 years who were prevented from having a face-to-face conversation. And so we're absolutely committed to it. In fact, we're excited about the opportunity to think out of the box about how we can still provide that really important opportunity, not only for students, but for their parents and loved ones as well, to celebrate in a more traditional commencement. So I would say, make sure you participate in May 16th. Watch our social media pages and accounts to get more updates and materials, information in that regard, but also stay tuned. We will be letting students know about when and how the face-to-face commencement will be occurring at the appropriate time when it's safe to do so.
We can all breathe now. Thank you. That's a good one. The next question that we got quite a bit, and I will send this one to you, Andreas, is will fall classes be online?
That's a good question, isn't it? Well, at this time, I'm afraid we do not know, but we're not standing still. Obviously, we continue to take guidance from our state leadership, from CDC, the federal government. These are very important things that we need to keep in mind, that that guidance from our state government needs to be done in a manner that looks after the well-being of everyone. But as I mentioned, we're not standing still. We want to make sure that our ability to continue offering classes in the best possible way is not interrupted by anything. Does slow down. On the contrary, based on the experience we're having this semester, and how do we learn if we have to continue online or partially online, some semi-normal situation? How do we do it in the best possible way? So what I am doing is I'm bringing together a group of faculty, people from student affairs, people from the grad college, to even our teachers and our graduate students who are teaching in the classroom, to think about what are the things we have learned from this abrupt change, going from face-to-face to online. And if we had to continue some of that as we move forward in the fall semester, how can we do it better? How can we prepare everyone to feel much better about the way they engage with their community online? So we are very optimistic that we will have much better understanding of what the state is going to be come June. And I hope that around that time, we'll be able to get back to everyone and let them know our plans for the fall.
And Andres, I know you and Robert both have talked quite a bit about just individual stories of faculty really rising to the occasion. Can you just talk for a second about what it's been like to see faculty's creativity and innovation in this?
Well, I'll tell you, how often early on I heard faculty saying, Andreas, I don't like this, but I have to do it. I think this captures many of my colleagues' feelings about being asked, especially the ones who have never engaged in online teaching, in remote teaching, as they call it. Actually, they call it remote teaching. Some of them, they never have thought about it. And imagine those very challenging areas. Imagine trying to teach dance remotely or theater. The studio classes were the ones where most of the creativity was needed, as people tried to think what they could do. But of course, as we know very well, there's one thing about artists that are the most creative on the surface of the earth. And they were very good at coming up with ideas that I'm sure the rest of the campus will be borrowing and as they consider what can be done online and what cannot be done online.
Great, thank you. And Robert, can you talk a little bit about how COVID-19 could impact salary programs and hiring going forward?
Well, I think it's first of all appropriate to say, I think we all would agree that the current situation, the pandemic that we're dealing with, has really had a significant impact on every aspect of the operation of the university, programmatically, operationally, and financially. And so it's not possible for me to say unequivocally what's going to happen in the next several months, but I can tell you we are trying to better understand the financial realities of the nation and the world and ultimately the state of Illinois. And that ultimately is going to impact the decisions that we make from a financial perspective. But I can tell you, we feel a strong sense of responsibility to protect our human resources to the degree that we can, to be very, very clear about how we will be doing that. And you're going to be hearing a bit more about that in the next several days about our thoughts and our strategy around how do we make sure that we're hiring the critical personnel and retaining the critical personnel that are absolutely critical to the mission and the operation of this university. So can't say at this point specifically about pay raises or anything of that nature, but it is something that's on the mind of each and every one of us each and every day as we navigate our way through this crisis. But as I promise you, we will be as candid as possible, and we'll always be very truthful and provide a rationale and a context for certainly some of the difficult decisions that we may have to make in the months ahead.
Great, thank you very much. And our final question for the day, I think we all could say what we like about working remotely, those of us who are doing that, and what we don't like about it. We heard from a lot of people who want to know, how long will I be working remotely? And will I be able to keep doing this? Some people who found it to be really convenient would like to know if they can continue when this all ends. So I think I'd like to ask this one of everybody, and Chancellor, we'll start with you. Could I please continue to work at home?
Not this week, yeah. Yeah, you can this week, I'm sorry. That's a question that I get a lot, but I guess to answer your question, what I've found, there are many reasons that working remotely has some advantages, but I think when you've been a traditionalist face-to-face person, as long as I have, I've found the first week or two to be very, very difficult. In fact, much more difficult and challenging than getting up, getting in my car, driving to work every day, and then coming back home at night. I've found the first couple of weeks in particular to be very, very challenging. But just like most things, I'm kind of getting into the groove now. I'm finally learning how to mute and unmute, which is a very difficult task to manage. So we're trying to make the best of this. I think probably at the end of the day, I think that some of the experiences that we're having in this remote environment are important lessons to learn that we may want to institute once we go back to whatever face-to-face and normal operations might look like. Let me just give you one example. I find it much more efficient now to be able to sign off on important documents and to do it with Adobe Sign or whatever the platform may be, rather than having someone from another administrative office to walk the paperwork over to Swan & Hall, or my assistant to give it, to put it on my desk, and for me to wait to the opportunity when I can get to it to sign off on it, and then somebody is called to come back and pick it up. That is very, very inefficient. So I think that there are some efficiencies that we've been forced into because of COVID-19 that are going to serve us extremely well whenever we go back to more face-to-face operation. Electronic documents, we really have not taken advantage of that in the ways that we probably should have. And this has taught us that it's a much more effective and efficient way to run the administrative part of our enterprise. That's just one of many lessons that I've learned. And it's going to be interesting to see how, if I have any difficulty transferring back to face-to-face when that appointed time arrives.
That's great. Sean, how about you?
Let me say that I think the university is working on ways to transition faculty and staff back to campus in ways that are fair, equitable, and safe, right? To ensure that we can all do this safely. But let me also flip the question around and say, don't ask the question. And by that, I mean, I think what we all need to do right now is practice patience when we have no patience left. We have no idea when this will end. I think if we were to start to fixate on a specific date, especially when we have no control or in certain areas, no real knowledge as to what is truly needed for folks to come back to work, then we may be just increasing our own internal anxiety. Instead, I think we should really truly focus on doing a really good job with our current responsibilities, making sure that the university continues to do its work, its critical mission of scholarship, research, public engagement, and just, more and more patience. Thank you.
Very true. Very well said. Thanks. Susan, how about in the research area?
So let me address, first of all, the question, how long will I be working from home? And here I really want to give the shout out to the scientists. The governor was heavily influenced by our scientists from physics and the Institute for Genomic Biology. As a result, we went into the shelter in place early, and we're seeing a flattening of the curve. Now, the downside of that is we'll be at home a bit longer, but that's good news. And what I love to see across the nation as they listen to the science, the governors are saying, hey, we're going to let the science tell us when to lift this. And that is just so gratifying for the research enterprise. You ask, will I be able to continue working from home after this is all over? Our scholars work everywhere. They find a way to work everywhere. Like I said, you can't shut down the creative minds. When we do open up facilities, as we do open up the labs, we will do that in a very deliberate way. You can't just flip the light switch and tell everyone to hit their old working environment. So we're already working on those plans. So stay tuned on that.
That's great. Thank you. Danita.
Well, I have to tell you, a lot of our team members are eager to get back on campus and get into the office and connect with students, because that's our work. We're very personal. We don't do this work in silos, right? And so we feed off of the connectivity of people. And so, no, we don't know when we'll be able to come back to work and work in our physical spaces. But again, like Susan has mentioned, I mean, our team is used to doing work wherever. Wherever there's a student need, that's where we're going to be. And so there may be some opportunity down the road for some people to continue working remotely. It just really depends on what the situation warrants. But just like the chancellor has mentioned, the efficiencies that we have gained from this pandemic, getting people to understand, like, yeah, we've been trying to eliminate so much paper pushing, if you will, and really to utilize the technology and the creativity that we have. So no, we're anxious to kind of get back into the swing of things, to see students on our campus and to see our other team members. We miss that camaraderie.
Absolutely, I hear you. I miss my people so much. Goodness, it's good to see all of your faces and not just have them be your profile pictures. I love it. Barry, how about you?
This is an interesting space. Certainly, I don't think any of us have a crystal ball and are able to predict when business gets back to usual in a certain context. But I think as both Anita and Susan and others have alluded to, if you look hard enough, and perhaps you don't have to look all that hard, in certain spaces, there are some silver linings. And in the advancement space, to be candid, we've already been pursuing some of these initiatives of working remotely and virtually anyways. And so COVID-19 has provided really a catalyst to accelerate some of those plans, For example, in Chicago at the Illini Center, many of our advancement personnel have already embraced a remote working schedule. So depending on the circumstances and the responsibilities, I certainly envision affording additional advancement staff, where appropriate, the ability to work remotely.
Great, thank you. And Andreas?
Well, I would like to thank Son for his advice, and I say that because Son said, let's make sure we are patient when we lack out of patience. And Son, I will tell you, I have run out of patience. I can't wait to be back on campus. I mentioned in the beginning, I love my community, that human interaction. I don't believe there is any other place, any other entity like a university that brings the past, the present, the future together with just one goal, thinking about the world and how you make it better. And in saying that, let us not forget that we are such an important engine for the well-being and the prosperity of our community. Our absence from the campus, what I mean by that, the absence of our students, our staff, our faculty, has a tremendous financial impact on the communities that are part of our Champaign County. And that points to me the fact that we need to do our best to come back as quickly as possible. Of course, we have to be very responsible. We need to be mindful of the fact that the state will be providing guidelines of how to do it, CDC, the federal government. But at the same time, I want to say that there is also another lesson we're learning from this, and that is no matter whether we are there in physically on campus, the state now, like never before, is reaching out to our university, asking us to go beyond our boundaries, to reach out to the other parts of the state, whether it is to provide high schools, K through 12 schools with the opportunity to have material that they can actually take to their students while they're away from the school and assist the teachers in delivering that material. Whether the state is asking us to think of ways in which we can reach out and engage with employees in corporations that are now either put on furlough or they're being, for some reason, employed part-time and fill that extra time with their reskilling. They're reaching out to the University of Illinois to do that, and I will tell you, that's in the past, we're asking how we are going to go about doing this. And I think we are learning through this experience that we have to find a way to do this. And I'm certain we are going to find a way to do it in a way that the impact that we have on our community and the state and beyond is going to feel forward much stronger than ever before.
And I would just like to take a little moderator privilege and say how proud I am to work with each of you. It has been so heartwarming and impressive to see the leadership at this university at every level throughout this unprecedented time. Everybody has been laser focused on keeping our community safe, on continuing to do our business, and on finding innovative ways to help solve this problem. So props to everybody at Illinois. And Chancellor, I'll throw it back to you to wrap us up. I think that was our last question. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Robin, very much for the outstanding job that you've done moderating our dialogue today. And thank you to all of my colleagues for the very thoughtful and way that you've responded to the questions. And as Robin said, how we have worked together to address one of the most difficult periods in the history of this university. So thanks to those that are watching. I know that this has not been easy for anyone, but I have been truly inspired by the passion, the support of our university community, as I said earlier. And so thank you for continuing to advance this university through your commitment and your engagement to carry out our mission. It is truly a privilege to me to be your chancellor. And I just thank you for feeding and housing our students who couldn't return. Thank you for ensuring that our buildings are clean and are safe. And thank you for providing all of the support that's necessary for our essential workers to be supported during this very, very critical time period, as well as our student employees as well. And so we appreciate each and every one of your contributions on behalf of the entire university community. And we are so deeply thankful for your commitment and your dedication. So to everyone in the Illinois family, please continue to check your emails and COVID-19 site for any updates and issues. And again, thank you so, so much for joining us today. And please be safe, be healthy, protect yourselves, and protect others. Stay strong. Have a good day.